Hi, I'm Blake Bentz. We're here just outside of Merlin, Ontario, about an hour east of Detroit, Michigan, about 3 hours west of Toronto, Ontario, and we're planting into living green cover crop. Today's May 23rd, and you can see here we're standing in one of my multi-species cover crops. This is 7 species that have overwintered from an 18 species blend. And in our corner of southwestern Ontario, we've had a wet spring, contrary to a lot of people who've had a dry start to spring. So we've had to wait for the ground to be fit first and foremost, rule number 1. And the cover crop keeps growing. So, which is a benefit to me, of course, because as it grows, we fix more nitrogen. So a lot of the legumes in here, you can see the hairy vetch that's in here, the crimson clover, it's in bloom. These yellow flowers actually are a brassicas. They were a turnip that have gone to flower, no big deal there. And the cereal rye is just starting to pollinate. So we're at a really nice stage of growth and development. We fixed pretty much the maximum amount of biomass we're going to accumulate. And much like an iceberg, what you see above ground is only a fraction of what's happening below ground, okay? So that's the start of this. We're going to show you the perspective. It's like driving into a wall of green, and we're going to head up the field and get on with our day of planting. Plant it a little deeper than most people would, just to make sure that I've got good seed to soil contact. Because at times you might leave a little bit of a slit, and that's just due to the number of fine roots that are in here. And if you really look at the roots, now up close, you can see what I'm talking about. Like, there's just all these little fine roots in there that just prevent that seed trench from closing back over. So I'm erring on the side of caution. I'm planting the seed a little deeper. So that's the disaster field. It's everybody's butt end of the joke this summer, right? What's the village idiot up to this year? Drought, 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 drought. So we'll grow something here. It's not going to be the biggest crop, but it's not going to be the worst crop either. The season was very dry to start. It was challenged, the corn crop, but now we're coming into the tail end of summer. It's the first week of September. The corn plants are still quite green and they're healthy. Like, we're seeing very limited disease pressure, very limited insect pressure, even on a year with high insect numbers. So we have this beneficial community both in the soil to protect the plant from disease, as well as the beneficial community of living insects to protect the plant from predators. So it's all about that symbiotic relationship that we're farming biologically. And we're doing things much different than what the industry wants me to do today with a chemical intensive approach. And so all that's left really is your cereal rye and a little bit of wheat straw. So your highest carbon to nitrogen ratio residues are what's left. And as we get cooler into the fall and we get a little bit more moisture, you can see here the earthworms have already pulled this down into their midden. Right there. There's all kinds out here of earthworm burrows. Middens, as they call them. Here's one here. A nice one. Flip that over. Beautiful. Beautiful. And so that's what it's all about, trying to keep that armor on the soil, protect it. And yeah. Today is October 14 and we're looking at the finish line here. The combine is probably about a week and a half away. And you can see now that the plant is still quite green and healthy. Up until about earlier this week, we had our first frost. So we were still packing all that starch into the kernel. And when I come into the field, I like to see this. And this is all non-GMO corn. And we're filled out right to the tip. On a dry year when a lot of the province is suffering from a lot of tip back, but still we're going to harvest some nice grain in this field. So this was planted green, and I believe that it's that late season nitrogen that's released from the cover crop as it has decayed that's giving us this excellent grain fill right to the tip. And also, you know, when we have the soil that's nice and healthy, we have a lot better usage of water. So we're using that soil as the ultimate sponge to hold water at depth, so that when the corn needs water, if the soil is such, it can go down and grab that water from deep in the soil profile. And so it really helps us come to the finish line. It's doing okay. Considering it was a disaster in July. A little bit of variability. But it's still, it's corn. We're picking corn. Today's Remembrance Day, November 11th. And we're seeing yield swings from 80 to 100 bushel side by side. So that's pretty dramatic, really, when you start seeing these wide variances in hybrid performance. But that's part of the learning curve out here. And I really advocate for farmers not putting all of their eggs in one basket at any point in time. So you can see here, you know, it's a modest yield. We're bouncing between 150, 140, around there, some right now. And this is corn planted on May the 20th. And from May the 10th out here through July the 7th, we only had about 8.5 tenths of rain. So when it looked like all hope was lost at the start of July, we're harvesting a crop. But the other thing that I like to point out, we're not marking up the field whatsoever. Like, we're soil staying where it belongs. We're not picking up a lot of mud on the tires. So that has a lot to do with increased water infiltration that this system really promotes. We're trying to look after the soil for the benefit of future generations. And that's, on our farm, that's our goal. That's paramount to our success. And we're going to keep plugging along and doing what we're doing and trying to have fun at the same time. What we're observing today is a lot of variances in hybrid performance side by side. So it really shows farmers that we need to invest in doing our own farm-based research, because certain products perform better in this type of an environment. So your traditional racehorse type variety doesn't like this Planet Green so much. So we need to look at a Clydesdale as opposed to thoroughbreds when we're selecting corn hybrids. We also need to consistently challenge ourselves and not be satisfied with the status quo. If we're going to expect a different result, we can't expect to do the same thing over and over and over again to achieve a different result. We've learned that we need to maybe look at the long-term weather forecasting models, and if it's calling for dry weather, maybe we need to implement a different strategy. We need to contemplate a different herbicide than just glyphosate as a burn down, perhaps. So we're doing things differently here in southwestern Ontario, but that doesn't mean it's not without its successes as well as its failures. But if we don't learn from our mistakes, we can't go ahead either. So innovation is very important in our industry of agriculture. We can no longer just keep going down doing the same old, same old. We need to challenge ourselves if we really want to have a different net result. And that's why I do what I do, because it's not about physical bushels, it's about financial yield. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching.